So now that we've learned all about pathogens and how they spread and how that we can control them, we're going to start looking at how our body actually defends against them. So this starts with our physical barriers against pathogens. So our learning intention is to be able to explain how the human body protects against disease by physical barriers. So, to start off with, you might have heard me mention it a few times now, is we're looking at our immune system. So, there are, of course, thousands of pathogenic bacteria and microorganisms that our bodies use to, or that they microorganisms use to survive and reproduce. So, pathogens have evolved to exploit the human body to get resources, but luckily for us, we have been able to evolve a highly specialized immune system to defend against them. So, some key structures in our immune system that I do recommend you put into your glossary is, of course, beginning off with the thymus. So, this is something that's located in front of the heart and it is responsible for producing the white blood cell called T lymphocytes, or more commonly known as maybe T cells. Lymphocytes are just another word for a white blood cell. The spleen, it is oval shaped and it is the left side of the upper abdomen, and it is where antibodies are produced. The bone marrow is actually the, of course, central component of our bones, and it is where all blood is created. So that's your red blood cells, that's your white blood cells, and as well as platelets that are used for blood clotting. And then finally, the other key component in our immune system is the lymphatic system. So this is a network of small vessels that carry lymph fluid, but we will go through more of this stuff in later videos. But for now, I guess the main thing to know is antibodies and white blood cells are involved in neutralizing pathogens. So there are two different types of immunity that our body uses. So the first one is innate or non-specific immunity. So this is like a blanket response to any type of foreign agent. So the key thing being it is not a specific response to a specific type of pathogen. It's just a general way that our body defends against any and all intruders. Okay. The other one is this one's a specific, I'm also going to refer to it as adaptive or acquired immunity. So, this is something that specifically targets a certain foreign agent and defends against them. Okay. But for today, we're going to be focusing on our innate immune system. So, this is comprised up of three parts being physical barriers, chemical barriers, and the general immune response. So today we're going to be looking at our physical and chemical barriers. We're going to worry about this general immune response in a later video. So our physical barriers, this is the first line of defense against any and all bacteria, and a lot of them you can actually see. So the main one being our skin. This is in fact a physical barrier against pathogens getting inside of us. But think about not only the skin on the outside. We do have skin that goes on the inside of us as well, so it does line our internal organs. Um, and we can also say that things such as like our eyelashes and our hair do also help us to defend against pathogens. Some of the more chemical barriers include our mucous membrane. So, we might be thinking about some of the antimicrobial properties that some of our saliva has. It does also help to wash away microbes. We've got, the respiratory tract, so there's mucus traps in there and cilia to trap organisms. Chemical being stomach acid, that is very much so a chemical one. Bladder urine, so that's also quite chemical and helps to wash things away. Our large intestine, so we've actually got our good bacteria that's residing in there that does help keep the invaders away. Our tears to wash away things and they get in our eyes to try and keep things out of there. As well as a few lysozymes that are in there too that help again kill bacteria. Um, just to make it a bit more simple, because it might be a bit hard from that diagram to determine the physical and chemical barriers. So the physical ones, skin, the cilia. So these are like little tiny hair-like protrusions that kind of line our intestines and trap bacteria. Um, they're also found, I believe, yes, along the inner walls of our respiratory tract. Again, the gastrointestinal tract also does stop a lot of things getting in. Respiratory, and again, eyelashes body hair also helps keep pathogens out and away. Some chemical barriers, so again, tears, sweat, mucus, saliva, gastric acid, urine flow, and secretions. Again, all of this here to make it a little bit more obvious. Um, this is what we're going to be looking at in our next lesson, but really just a quick overview of our general immune responses. They come from inflammation, so you might notice whenever you get something like a bee sting or a wound or you sprain your ankle, flares up. So that is in fact caused by your immune response. The complement system or array, and then other non-specific cellular responses. But just to sum it up nicely, you will see this summary table in our next videos that covers our innate and acquired immunity. So here's what we went through today. Our first line of defense being skin, mucous membranes, secretions, our reflexes even, surprisingly, and our normal microbiota that's living in our intestines.